Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's dive into something that's probably on everyone's mind at some point. Retirement.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things, right? Whether it feels ages away or just around the corner, it's easy to feel swamped by all the info out there.
Totally. Especially with all the changes and debates happening right now. So that's what we're doing today, diving deep into the latest on retirement to help you cut through all that noise.
Absolutely. And we've got a really interesting mix of stuff to look at today. Financial articles, opinions on Social Security, even a YouTube channel about retiring early.
You're not kidding, it's a lot, but that's why we're here, to break it all down. So, before we even get to the rule changes and policies, maybe we should take a step back. What are we even talking about when we say retirement planning?
That's a good point. It's more than just hitting a certain age, right? In the U.S., it's helpful to think of it as three main pillars. You've got Social Security, then employer plans like those 401ks, and then what you save and invest on your own. It's really about how these all work together once you're done working.
Okay, so it's like a three-legged stool. You need all the pieces for it to work.
Exactly.
And that actually connects to this YouTube video we found. It's from a channel called Retire Early 500K Catchy, right?
Definitely.
Well, they mentioned this stat that the average retirement age in the U.S. is now 61. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. I think it shows how much more individual circumstances and what people want are factoring into retirement. The video creator actually argues for retiring as soon as you're financially able. Their point is you never know what life will throw at you. Now, I know that's not possible for everyone, but it does emphasize being proactive, taking control of that timeline yourself.
Right, like don't wait for someone to give you a gold watch. Go after the retirement you want.
Exactly. But taking charge also means knowing how the rules work, and as we know, those are always changing.
And that takes us to this Forbes article. They lay out 6 key changes for 2024 and 2025. Some of these are big, especially for anyone who's a high earner. Like starting in 2026, if you're making over $145,000, those extra catch-up contributions to your 401k, they have to go into a Roth account.
That's a significant change.
And I know Roth IRAs and all that can seem confusing,
It definitely can.
but basically it means those contributions are taxed now, not when you retire.
Right, and that highlights why it's crucial to understand the ins and outs of these different retirement accounts, how they fit with your taxes.
And it's not just for the high earners. The article also goes into inherited IRAs, specifically this new 10-year rule. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, that one's tripped a lot of people up, especially if you inherit an IRA from someone who is already taking those required minimum distributions, the RMDs. It can get complicated.
Sounds like it. So, big takeaway there, if you're inheriting an IRA, do your research, maybe talk to a financial advisor. But before we get too bogged down, the article did have some good news.
Ah, are you talking about rolling over money from a 529 plan into a Roth IRA? Tax-free even?
That's the one. So, if you saved for your kids' education and have funds left over, this could be a great move. There are some rules, of course. The beneficiary has to be the same for both, and you have to meet other criteria. Still, it's a potential win.
It is. It's all about being informed and thinking strategically. And speaking of strategy, there's another source we should bring in here, this Kiplinger article. They focus on managing capital gains in retirement. It might seem unrelated at first, but it's actually very connected to everything we've been talking about.
Capital gains in retirement. That sounds kind of intimidating. Like, isn't that for people who are really rolling in it?
You'd be surprised. It's easy to only think about the saving part, not what happens later. But this Kiplinger article brings up a good point. Even decisions that seem simple, like selling your house, can have big tax implications once you're retired. You're suddenly dealing with capital gains taxes, and that can have a domino effect.
Oh, okay. So, like, what kind of domino effect are we talking about?
Well, say you sell your house, right? Made a good profit, great. But that profit, those capital gains, they get added to your income for the year.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. That bump in income could push you into a higher tax bracket, and then it can affect how much of your Social Security is taxed, even your Medicare premiums. It's all connected.
Wow. So, one decision about your house turns into this whole thing.
Exactly. And that's why understanding how your investments, your Social Security, your taxes all work together is so important. Which actually segues perfectly into that source you shared about how Social Security actually works in the U.S.
Yes, that was super helpful. To be honest, I hear about Social Security's problems all the time, but I'm not sure I totally get it myself.
It's definitely complex. Basically, it's funded through payroll taxes.
Mhm.
So money from your paycheck, your employer's contribution all goes into this Social Security trust fund. Then those funds are used to pay benefits to people currently retired.
So it's like a big pool of money everyone pays into, then it goes to those who are eligible.
Simplified, yes. But here's the challenge. We've got more people taking money out than paying in. People are living longer, which is great, but they're also getting benefits longer.
And then we've got all this political debate about fixing it, which, judging by these articles, is stressing people out.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic. Social Security is a lifeline for so many. Any changes are going to spark debate.
For sure. And this Common Dreams article, they jump right into it. They are not happy about this proposal from the GOP to raise the full retirement age to 69. They're calling it an attack on retirees even.
They cite a report from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, saying this would cut benefits without actually making Social Security solvent long term.
And they go on to support the Democrats' solution, which is basically making the super rich pay more into Social Security.
Right. Their argument is the wealthy benefit disproportionately now, so they should contribute more to secure its future. It's a view shared by many.
It makes sense. If you can afford to pay more, shouldn't you, to protect something so important?
It's a compelling argument for sure. But like any complicated issue, there are other sides to consider. That's where articles like this one from MarketWatch come in. They report on the potential benefit cuts, the CBO analysis, but it's from a less political angle.
Yeah, it feels more focused on the practical side of things.
Exactly. For example, they point out that, sure, people are living longer, but they're not necessarily healthier for longer. Many jobs are still physically demanding too. And what happens to unemployment if older workers have to stay employed? It's a lot to think about.
It's like they're trying to get past the political back and forth and look at the real-world effects of such a big change.
Exactly. Encourage people to think critically beyond the headlines.
Now, LaGrada, on the other hand, they went in a whole other direction. They actually suggest raising the retirement age to 70, even more conservative. Their reasoning is that, well, the Social Security Trust Fund is shrinking.
And they see this as the way to prevent it from running out completely.
Yeah.
They really emphasize the urgency of the situation. The longer we wait, the harder it'll be to fix. And that feeling of urgency is definitely present in a lot of discussions about Social Security. The longer we're stuck in this political back and forth, the higher the stakes get.
So we've got this system with some big challenges ahead, and everyone's got an opinion on how to fix it. It's kind of overwhelming, honestly, but I guess what I'm getting is ignoring it isn't an option.
Definitely not. Especially with retirement, knowing what's going on is so important. And you're already a step ahead just by being here, engaging with this stuff.
That's what we like to hear. But with all these articles, opinions, YouTube videos, what do we actually do with it all? What are some things our listeners should keep in mind as they plan for their own retirement?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is this is about your retirement.
Yeah.
What you want, your goals, your timeline. Don't let all the political stuff or the news scare you. Use this info to make good decisions.
I like that. Don't just sit back and listen. Take charge.
Exactly. And be proactive. If you haven't already, now's the time to seriously think about your plan. When do you see yourself retiring? What do you want that to look like, lifestyle-wise? How much money will you actually need to support that?
And don't be afraid to get help. Talking to a financial advisor can be a game changer, especially with the more confusing parts like taxes, investments, Social Security.
Couldn't agree more. And lastly, be ready to adapt. What worked for your parents, even what worked a few years ago, it's not always the best strategy now. Stay informed, revisit your plan, and don't be afraid to make changes if you need to.
So it's not a set it and forget it thing. It's got to evolve. You know, that reminds me of something from that YouTube video we talked about, the guy who wants everyone to retire early.
Right.
He asked this question, really stuck with me. With so many opportunities in retirement, what will you do with your time? Really makes you think.
It does. Retirement's not an ending, it's a new beginning, right? A chance to explore, maybe try new things.
Beautifully said. So to wrap things up, stay informed, be proactive, be adaptable, and start picturing your ideal retirement.
That's great advice.
We'll leave you all with that to think about as you continue navigating the world of retirement. Until next time, happy planning.